For decades, the United States government denied its existence. It wasn't on any map. It didn't appear in any official document. Anyone who asked about it was told it wasn't real. But satellite images told a different story. Massive runways carved into the middle of the Nevada desert. Hangars the size of football fields. Armed guards with orders to shoot on sight. Motion sensors buried in the ground for miles around. Signs warning that photography is prohibited and that the use of deadly force is authorized. Something was happening at Area 51, something the government didn't want anyone to know about. For 70 years, they said nothing. And then, in 2013, they finally admitted the truth. Well, part of it. It's the real story of Area 51. What the government confirmed, what they still deny, and what they might be hiding to this day. Area 51 is a highly classified United States Air Force facility, located within the vast Nevada Test and Training Range, about 83 miles northwest of Las Vegas. The site sits on the shores of Groom Lake, a dry lake bed etched into the desert floor. The surrounding area is some of the most restricted airspace in the United States. Even military pilots are warned to stay away. The facility has gone by many names over the years: Groom Lake, Paradise Ranch, Dreamland, Watertown, The Box. Officially, the government simply called it the Nevada Test Site or the remote location. For decades, they refused to even acknowledge it existed, but people knew it was there. You could see it from the peaks of nearby mountains. You could see the glow of lights against the desert night sky. And starting in the 1950s, people in the surrounding area started seeing things in that sky that they simply couldn't explain. Lights moving at impossible speeds. Objects that changed direction instantaneously. Craft that hovered silently and then shot straight up, vanishing into the blackness. The UFO sightings around Area 51 became legendary, and the government's steadfast refusal to explain them only made things worse. When you tell people nothing is happening and they can see with their own eyes that something is happening, they start to imagine the worst, or the most exciting. So what was actually happening at Area 51? Let's start with what we know for certain. In 1955, the CIA selected Groom Lake as a top-secret testing site for the U-2 spy plane. The U-2 was a revolutionary aircraft designed to fly at altitudes above 60,000 feet, higher than any aircraft had ever flown. It was built to spy on the Soviet Union during the Cold War without ever being detected. The project was clandestine. The pilots were recruited in secret. The aircraft was designed and built in secret. And it was tested in the middle of the Nevada desert, far from prying eyes. But there was a problem. The U-2 flew so high that it caught sunlight at altitudes where commercial aircraft were already engulfed in darkness. Airline pilots flying at 20,000 or 30,000 feet would look up and see a bright, unidentifiable object moving across the sky at an impossible altitude. They had never seen anything like it because nothing like it had ever existed before. They reported UFOs, dozens of reports, hundreds of reports. People on the ground saw the same thing, a mysterious glowing craft moving silently at an extraordinary altitude. The government knew exactly what these objects were. They were U-2 spy planes. But they couldn't say that, because the U-2 program was one of the most closely guarded secrets of the Cold War. So, they said nothing. Or they said the witnesses were mistaken. Or they blamed weather balloons. According to a CIA report declassified in 2013, U-2 and later aircraft flights accounted for more than half of all UFO sightings in the United States during the late 1950s and 1960s. Half. The government knew what people were seeing. They just couldn't tell them. But the U-2 was only the beginning. After the U-2, Area 51 became the testing ground for the A-12 Oxcart, the precursor to the famous SR-71 Blackbird. The A-12 could fly at over 3 times the speed of sound and at altitudes above 90,000 feet. It was coated in radar-absorbing material, making it nearly invisible to enemy defenses. Imagine seeing that in 1962. an aircraft moving at 3 times the speed of sound. At the very edge of space, with no visible means of propulsion at that distance. You would swear you had seen something not from this Earth. Then came the F-117 Nighthawk, the first true stealth aircraft. Its angular, alien-looking design was unlike any aircraft ever built. It was tested in secrecy at Area 51 throughout the 1970s and early 1980s, when people saw it flying at night. Its flat black surface reflecting no light, moving silently with no visible engines. They reported UFOs. Every generation of classified aircraft tested at Area 51 generated a new wave of UFO sightings. And every single time, the government denied everything. This is where the conspiracy theories really took root, because the government wasn't just hiding aircraft. They were actively deceiving the public about what people were seeing in the sky. And if they were lying about that, what else were they lying about? The most famous conspiracy theory about Area 51 involves the Roswell incident. In July 1947, something crashed on a ranch near Roswell, New Mexico. The Army initially announced they had recovered a flying disc. The very next day, they retracted the statement and changed the story to a weather balloon. Conspiracy theorists believe that the wreckage from Roswell, including possibly alien bodies, was transported to Area 51 for study. Is there any evidence for this? Nothing that has ever been verified. But the government's decades of secrecy and denial have made it almost impossible to convince some people that there isn't more to the story. And then there are the whistleblowers. Bob Lazar is the most famous. In 1989, Lazar appeared on television, claiming that he had worked at a facility called S4, near Area 51, where he was hired to reverse engineer alien spacecraft. He described the craft in detail. He described their propulsion system, which he said ran on a stable isotope of an element called element 115, which hadn't been officially discovered yet. In 2003, element 115 was synthesized by Russian scientists. It's now called Moscovium. The fact that Lazar had described an element that didn't officially exist at the time he made his claims gave his story a chilling credibility among believers. But Lazar's background is murky, claimed degrees from MIT and Caltech that neither university can confirm. His employment records at Los Alamos National Laboratory, which he also claimed were disputed for years before being partially confirmed. Is Lazar telling the truth? Nobody knows for certain. He's either the most important whistleblower in human history or one of the most elaborate frauds. In 2017, the New York Times revealed the existence of a secret Pentagon program called the Advanced Aerospace Threat Identification Program, or AATIP. This program, which ran from 2007 to 2012, was designed to investigate reports of unidentified aerial phenomena, which is the military's term for UFOs. The program had a budget of $22 million. It investigated incidents involving military personnel who had encounters with objects displaying technology far beyond anything known to exist. The program's former director, Luis Elizondo, resigned from the Pentagon and went public, stating that the evidence for unknown aircraft operating in U.S. airspace was overwhelming. Then came the videos. In 2020, the Pentagon officially released 3 videos taken by Navy fighter pilots showing unidentified objects. The objects moved in ways that defied conventional physics. They had no visible propulsion. They could accelerate from hovering to hypersonic speed in an instant. They could change direction at angles that would destroy any known aircraft. The Pentagon confirmed the videos were authentic. They confirmed the objects were unidentified. They did not say the objects were alien, but they couldn't explain what they were. In 2023, David Grush, a former intelligence officer, testified before Congress that the United States government possesses non-human craft and non-human biologics. He claimed that a secret program has been recovering and attempting to reverse engineer these craft for decades. He said he was denied access to the program and faced retaliation for trying to bring the information to Congress. Grush's testimony was given under oath. Lying to Congress is a federal crime. Either he was telling the truth or he was willing to risk prison for a lie. Congress took him seriously, both Democrats and Republicans. Bipartisan legislation was introduced to force disclosure of any government programs involving non-human intelligence. The fact that Congress, not conspiracy theorists, but the United States Congress, is demanding answers, tells you that something unusual is happening. So where does that leave us? Here's what we know for certain. Area 51 is real. The government confirmed it in 2013. It was used to test classified aircraft that generated thousands of UFO reports. The government knowingly deceived the public about those sightings for decades. Here's what we think we know. The Pentagon ran a secret program to investigate UFO encounters. Navy pilots have captured footage of objects displaying technology beyond our current understanding. Multiple whistleblowers with high-level security clearances have claimed the government possesses non-human craft. Here's what we don't know. What those objects in the Navy videos actually are. Whether any non-human technology has been recovered. What is currently happening at Area 51, and whether the government is telling us everything, or still hiding the biggest secret in human history. The gates of Area 51 remain closed. The guards still patrol with authorization to use deadly force. The restricted airspace still extends for miles in every direction. Whatever is in there, they don't want you to see it. And that should concern everyone. If this opened your eyes, subscribe. Because next, we read going to a frozen mountain in Russia, where 9 experienced hikers died under circumstances so bizarre that investigators closed the case and labeled it an unknown compelling force. The Dyatlov Pass incident. The most chilling, unsolved mystery of the 20th century. That's next.